Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Backlog Crew. Today we're going to be finishing up our discussions on War for the Overworld. So let me go ahead and introduce everybody. I'm John, this is Kurt,
Hey.
and this is Ryder. Alright, so today we're going to be talking about the final six chapters, I believe. So chapters 8 through 13. Hopefully my numbers are correct and that is 6. If not, just
Yeah,
pretend
you're
it
good.
is. Okay, good. Okay. So we're going to be picking up our discussions from last time, where we were discussing, the gameplay for War for the Overworld and just the combat and the unique aspects of this game. So I'll go ahead and introduce, I guess, Chapter 8, and then we can move forward with that, and then we can kind of get an overarching discussion at the end after we've completed the chapters. How's that sound, guys?
Sounds great.
Okay. So chapter 8 was the Royal Crypt, and then we're going to be traveling there to resurrect the Empire's most sacred heroes. So naturally, we're going to be getting a new minion here called the Necromancer. They're going to be using their death magic to resurrect the dead, obviously. And one of those dead that they're going to be bringing back is the Ghoul. So these are rotting husks that will serve as our fighting force, and they're brought back to life by the Necromancers as we encounter the different crypts within within their burials. So yeah, any first thoughts on the Necromancer? I know that this chapter itself was a lot different. You don't actually start with building a dungeon. You only start with four Necromancers, and you have to make your way through. So what did y'all think about that change of pace there?
I thought it was a good change of pace. As I talked about in the last episode, RTSs aren't really my thing, and this was a nice reprieve. It was something completely different, something that wasn't extremely taxing. Uh, and yeah, it was really cool, just like amassing more and more minions, and I felt more and more powerful as I went.
Okay.
Felt pretty much the same way. I thoroughly enjoyed this section. It like Kurt said, it was a really nice break. They put it in a really good place because this is chapter 8, so you're a little bit over halfway. Um, Said in our last episode, the last two chapters felt like a slog almost, especially the one right before this. By the time I was done with it, I was like, oh goodness, that was
Mm-hmm.
an hour, and it wasn't particularly hard for me, but it was just very tedious. So this was a really nice break.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Also liked the it's something we've talked about before. The ability to kind of choose how you play with this.
Mm-hmm.
So you couldn't really say, all right, I'm going to build a barracks and attract Gnarlings, or I'm going to make a garrison and attract an augur or whatever it may be. But you could choose to just go and collect just enough people, and then bum rush them, or you could get everything possible, and kind of stack up this massive undead army, and then take it to the old emperor's tomb, which is something I really enjoyed.
Mm-hmm. So
Did you guys? Sorry, go ahead, John.
I was just gonna say, did everyone get all seven of the burials? Okay,
Yeah,
That's
that's
what I
what
was
you were
gonna
looking at.
ask. Yeah, I did for sure. That's the only time I saw an optional objective, and I was like, I want to do that.
Yeah,
it was
that's a
fun.
very good point. I gotta say, out of these last few that we had here, the last six, would y'all agree that that was probably the easiest one?
Yeah,
Oh yeah,
I
I think it
didn't
was
have to
made to be
think.
easy.
Right. And it's like they knew we were gonna make this in the future. They're like, you know what? Let's put an easy one to get
Mm,
everyone back into the game from the last time they
yeah.
played. So,
I was kind of worried because I was picking it back up and I hadn't played it. Um, Really, it'd been a lot longer than a week. We recorded last week, but it's been 2 or 3 weeks since I'd played it, and so
same.
getting back into it, I opened up the game and was like, I'm a little worried. I've been playing this last week. I think I put like 15 hours into Age of Empires, so I was like in an RTS mood. But I was still really worried that just mechanically, I wasn't going to remember, what does what. But at the very least, it got me back into the combat pretty easily. It was a nice little refresher. I don't think it was intended to be that. I guess it was intended to be a refresher, but not in that way. Like I said, it's a break from the previous almost tedious levels.
Hmm.
Um,
Okay, perfect. Any other comments? Anything on chapter 8?
I just
uh,
want to say that I understand, Ryder. Wait, I understand mechanically why we just like start from zero every level. But it was very frustrating. Where it's like, let's raise the 8 most powerful like dead warriors in the kingdom, and then let's just leave them there and let's just let them run amok. And it's like, no, let's take those with us, and it would be great. I don't know. Maybe the magic lore has explained why that isn't feasible, or maybe I should just get over petty story inconveniences for the sake of game mechanics. But that was something that was whenever he was doing like the outro of the level. I was like, no, why are we leaving them here?
Yeah. So I felt the exact same way.
Hmm.
That's what I was really excited for. I was like, "Ooh, I'm building this army." Maybe that's why this is kind of like
I'll have a leader.
a refresher. It's a break. Yeah, like this level starts me from scratch with just these necromancers, so that I can build, maybe a stronger army to take on what's to come. And again, I understand why it didn't work like that, but I was really disappointed when I started the next level, and back to square one. And that's
Same old,
actually
same old.
that's exactly what I was going to say, Kurt. So you hit the nail on the head. I guess the bigger point for this mission was, I think it's maybe in the title. You're just supposed to defile the graves. You're not
Desecration.
technically building an army. Yeah, it's just that you're going to make a mockery of them. So I guess as far as like the story, it kind of makes sense, but it is kind of frustrating though.
Yeah, it's like bad story writers. We finally got our White Walker army, but we didn't really do that much with it. Yeah.
Don't don't do that. Don't.
See, guys, your faces are on video. I get to keep this forever. Okay.
John, talk about chapter 9.
Okay. All right. Chapter 9. We have successfully desecrated the tombs, and so now we're going to be going to Belmorin's Pass. So during our desecration, the Empire got really hasty because they got very angry about us desecrating, their beloved heroes. So they're going to try to really run at us and try to start this invasion back against us. However, they're going to be trying to send their warriors through Belmorin's Pass, and so this is a very good name for this chapter: Lambs to the Slaughter. So our Underlord is now set up in this pass, and our goal is to stop these waves of enemies from being able to reinforce their front lines. And so we're going to be keeping all of their units from making it through this pass, and we're going to be fighting off waves, and I believe we cannot let more than 10 warriors through, because that number would be just too much for our warriors on the front lines. Alright, so,
It's about sending a message, John.
exactly. And,
So to be fair, I think what it was that, didn't they say if they made it to the other gate, then it was going to summon a larger invasion? Was the
probably.
idea? Was that they're more like the front line, and
Right.
once they get there, they're going to open up the gate, and
Yeah, they're
then
gonna, yeah.
You guys are worried too much
That
about
didn't fit with
mechanical
my joke, though.
contrivances. Just let the story be the story. It's fine.
That didn't fit with my joke, so I just ignored
Oh, I didn't hear you. I'm sorry,
it.
John.
No, I meant what Ryder was saying. But
Oh,
yes,
I
I
gotcha.
believe their intent is to set up more gateways and be more of a nuisance to us in our path of conquest. However, our Underlord is here, and he's going to be saving the day for our army so we can advance forward. So our objective is to deny their entry, and some of the new items and buildings that we receive for this chapter are the Frostweaver Potion. So it allows you to summon a Frostweaver to defend an area. And these, I'm just going to call them Ice Spirits. They can uh, they can send out ice shards across the ground and really help defend an area when you need them to. And then one of the new buildings is the Crypt. So this is where our Necromancers are going to be at, and that's what's going to want them to join us. And these crypts are going to be storing our dead, and we can use our new ritual, Uprising, which allows us to use all of these corpses that we've gathered and stored in our crypt, and we can make an army of undead wraiths to attack the enemy for a limited amount of time before they disappear. So, anyone got anything to say about chapter 9?
so this one, I don't know if hardest is the right word for it, but this one gave me the most anxiety.
Oh,
I was
just
on
because of
like
the
pins and
waves.
needles the whole time. Yeah, and there's a lot,
Mm-hmm.
and I I restarted this one like 4 times preemptively. Like, I was doing okay, but I continually restarted because I was thinking like, there's no way. Like the first wave came, and I went ahead and I was like, no, I'm not ready. So I restarted. And but all of this was in with like, the three restarts I did were between 5 to 10 minutes into the game, so I didn't lose a
Right.
lot of time. Um, but this is where I think I ended up creating like 10 foundries and just started like pumping out the little cubes,
Hmm.
and as soon as possible started like placing as much as possible.
Absolutely.
Um,
Hmm.
this is where the garrison really comes in handy. There's a couple of things that I did like about this once I actually kind of got in the flow of it. Um, using your I can't remember what they're called, Blade
Yeah, the
Lotus.
Blade Lotus. Yes.
Setting Blade Lotuses at choke points, putting down these little um, the ice ray thingies. I can't remember what they're called, but they slow down units when they get in radius.
Oh yes, the
And
tower
then
that slows everyone down. Hmm.
I can't remember what it's called, but putting that
That's
down
fine.
and then putting down a garrison as well, so that you get bonuses on top of that. Um, Pretty much that trio really saved me at a lot of times because it slows down the enemies so they can't hurt your traps as
Hmm.
much. The garrison also strengthens the traps, I believe, and then the Blade Lotus, just stops them in place and
Hmm.
will continually attack them. Uh, Also, sorry, I know I'm doing a lot right here. This
No,
is
go for it.
really great mission for the prison and torture chamber,
Absolutely.
because you're just getting free like cannon fodder. Um, because as soon as you kill one, that's another person you can put on the rack, and that's another soldier you can add to your ranks. I don't remember as far as gold in this one. I think I was doing pretty poorly on money management. Um, so Beast Den also, all these things come in handy. This is one of the first mission, probably actually the only mission from here to the end of the game that pretty much uses every mechanic that I've been
Hmm.
taught in some useful way. Of course, you don't have to do that, but all of these things actually felt important for once. And I did really appreciate that because it was a lot. I think by the end, I think I had like three enemies get through, but I was so worried there at the end. I was like, please, please let this be it. Because I went, I saw like one, two, three go into like the portal. I had to scroll back and look and make sure there's no one else. I think there's one straggler, and I just lightning them to death.
And it's really
But like
scary at the end
I said,
there.
pins and needles.
I was
Yeah,
just gonna say it's really scary at the end there because the objective changes once you like defeat enough of them. That was like defeat the remaining, and so I just
Hmm.
like saw the number in the corner, and all of a sudden it was like out of 10, like going up, and I'm just like, what's happening? And then I realized that the objective had changed. I was like, oh okay.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, go ahead.
I want to add on to that. Like you said, the objective changes. Well, one of the additional achievements in the in this mission was to not let any soldiers through through to the end. Well, fun fact, I did not let a single soldier through until after the objective changed, and two of them made it through. But I had already gotten the secondary achievement because the goal changed, and I didn't let any through in the first little part. So that ended up
Nice,
working out for me.
got it.
nice. Yeah, for this level, I had basically the same strategy that Ryder did. I just built up a garrisons, claimed the territory along the entire like pathway, and then just built dozens of traps. It was usually just the blade lotuses, and then I'd build the bombards, like every three or four of those, like between every three or four, and then like, this is obviously something that was explained in the game, probably, but I didn't know that you could just like pick up and place the parts from the foundry. I thought the
Hmm.
workers had to
Yeah,
bring them, um, and my workers were just doing random nonsense as the units in this game are prone to do for whatever reason. Uh, and so when I realized I could do that, it was a game changer. So I died like my first time, and then the second time I just put a wall of traps, and I had to summon my army a couple times, but really it was just the traps and then just like spamming lightning on any groups that came in like one at a time.
Yeah, so I mostly used army, I would say. I know I put up a lot of traps. I mostly used the bombards. I didn't use many blade lotuses. I used bombards and the portcullis. Those are the
Hmm.
main tools that I used, and then supplement that with my army and my beasts. But one thing I'm going to ask both of you: did you not use the create what is it called? Create component
Create Earth.
spell? No, the create component spell. So if you cast that spell on the traps that you're building, it will create them. It only costs mana, which is renewable.
No, that sounds
I
really good
didn't.
though.
So that would have
I
been
I don't.
unlocked via the top part, the sins. It would have been unlocked via the
Yeah.
sins.
Say I found that,
Hmm.
but I don't think I had it until the next level. The next level I ended up just unlocking everything possible. I don't want to cut ahead, but
Yeah,
I was still at that point where like I'm not using no cultist. So that's just a larger complaint about the game that I'll get into later. But
that's perfectly fine. Okay.
um I was gonna say, as far as things that you didn't know, you're talking about with the you can place components to actually build your traps. You can actually heal your traps by
Hmm.
placing parts on top of them as well. And so that made that mission a lot easier because you just go and like Blade Lotus is about to be broken. No, sir, just go and drop the extra pieces on top. And at one point, I think I had like 25 of the little cubes, and so I could just keep on placing the foundry pieces on top of them, uh, pretty much endlessly. And one more thing, I figured this out as well. Um, you can actually change the speed of the game in
Hmm.
the options. I didn't know that. That was so convenient. Because there were a lot of points where I was just playing the waiting game,
Even I
and
didn't
so I
know
just
that.
turn up the speed to like 150% and just let it burn through it really fast.
See, I did the opposite where I learned that you could change the speed and I turned it down very low so that I had more time to think and basically put it on easy.
Well,
Uh, but yeah, sorry, I was gonna say I learned the keyboard shortcut as well for that. It's like control and like the page up and page down.
Hmm.
Then I would just like moderate the speed as necessary.
yeah, I was gonna say, well, some people need it at a slower pace. I honestly would have liked a slower pace at some of these points if I would have taken the time to learn that I could change that. But like Ryder had said, doing the waiting game at some points was a bit annoying. But it kind of evened out because I didn't mess with it, so it ended up staying the same. So I got more used to the timings on it, especially when I got to repeat some parts of these levels. So
What you have to do.
yep. So anyway, that gets us to chapter 9. Any other final comments for chapter 9? Okay, question to ask: how many soldiers did y'all let get through before it swapped the objective? If
I
you
think
if
three.
if you noticed,
I don't think I let any through.
look at you.
I'm not
Wow.
sure. Yeah, let me check. You go
So what was
ahead.
the objective change? I don't remember that.
It just swapped from don't let any through to whenever you get to the final like 10 or so, it says kill the final 10 people, and then it'll count down as you kill more of them until it gets to the end. That was the only real objective change.
Hmm.
Yeah, but it still
So
just says like out of 10, so it's
Yeah.
confusing.
I don't remember that actually. I remember only three got through, but those were like within the last 10.
Yeah.
So I don't know how that worked. I just that I thought I was going to lose because they were going through, and then I lightning that last person, and then it ended, and I was like, okay, I'm okay with this. I don't want to redo this because it was like I think I was 56 minutes in at that point, and I was like, I really don't want to have to redo this,
Right.
or like 45 minutes in, something like that. And this is one of those you can't change, the speed because there's other dungeons where you can just bum rush the enemy and
Hmm.
like get it over with faster. But this one, since they're in like set waves, it's
Right.
going to be like at least 40 minutes regardless.
Mm.
I think because the other ones you can go look at the objectives like finish this in 12 minutes, finish it in 15, but this one says finish in 38. So I
Mm.
guess 38 is like the speed run goal, I guess. That's a lot.
Yeah, sometimes those extra objectives made me sad because it take me like 15 minutes to do the level, and then it's like finish this in 10 minutes. I'm just like, okay, you know what? Sure, I could have done that in 10 minutes, but I didn't.
Yeah, I double checked the objective. I
Yeah,
didn't let anyone through. So take that,
you're
Ryder.
awesome. Okay, so there goes chapter 9. So we were successful in fighting off these waves of the enemies, and so now we're going to be moving to the Arcane Fortress. So within the Arcane Fortress is the Kinos. This is a strange artifact. We're not quite sure what it does at this point. We just know that Mendikaus really wants us to grab this artifact, and so we're actually being backed up by another Underlord named Mira. And Mira
Hmm.
is going to be fighting from the north side, we're going to be fighting from the south side, and then we're going to both be trying to destroy, if I'm not mistaken, inhibitors, right? There's four of them. Okay,
Yeah.
yes, four inhibitors. So there's going to be two on the upper area of the map, two on the lower area of the map, and then in the very middle is the Kinos, which is surrounded by the auras of the inhibitors. So we must destroy those in order to move forward. And I believe on this map we get a few more unlockables. However, I didn't take notes for this one. I believe you might get the Ember Demon on this map, though. Can anyone
Yes,
confirm that? Okay,
that is
so
correct.
I'm just going to point out the Ember Demon is my favorite unit in this game, and that was going to encompass most of my armies at this point. So, but I will let y'all take it from here. Go ahead, Kurt.
What is the Ember Demon?
Oh no.
It's alright. I didn't have as much as John did. Apparently, I think I had like 15 at one point, and they were okay.
Oh
But
no,
like,
that's about right.
the,
Because they take up your mana bar, so you can only have so many.
yeah, I just like
Yeah.
the base troops better most of the time.
So,
But they are nice because they infinitely respawn.
yes. So I'll explain the Ember Demon for everyone and for Kurt. So the Ember Demon was unlocked via the Sentry. Sentry. Anyway, and the goal of the Ember Demon is you place it on the ground, kind of like you would an outpost. And so it spawns. It's this little ball of fire that sits in one by one unit, one by one area, and it will continually spawn an Ember Demon, a single Ember Demon for each one. And it doesn't require food, it doesn't require payment, it doesn't require sleep, it doesn't
Sleeping.
require anything. It just goes and attacks until it dies, and then it gets its own war rally flag, and so you can move them around strategically separate from your main army to clear a small area or to keep enemies from taking over an area that you've previously cleared. So that is how I use these Ember Demons, and once one dies, it has a timer before it will reset, so you can reuse them, but they will automatically go back to the banner that you have set up if you haven't removed it. If not, they will wander around your dungeon and protect it, kind of like a beast, but they also do not require food, so you can perpetually keep them out and about without having to worry about any of their needs, which is perfect for me because I'm a horrible
That
underlord.
that sounds amazing. I should have used those.
So, and some strategies go along with those as well, and I'll bring those up in the later missions. I didn't quite get a grasp on how useful they were in this mission, so only had a few, but later on they do come in handy. So, well, that's a lot of me talking. So, why don't one of you tell me how you thought this chapter went for you?
So the only thing I have written down in my notes for this is minions are still just doing random incorrect things, like breaking down doors that invite more enemies into combat, even though the door they need to go through has already been opened. Does that not happen constantly for you guys? They'll be going through a room that has like
Hmm.
a north, east, and a west door, and I'm just like, just go north. Break down the north door, go north, and they're like, let's invite everybody
Yeah,
to this party.
I'm
it's like
setting impasse on it though, and they don't. If you set the impasse squares, then they don't go past that line.
okay. I had issues with that because my workers were completely ignoring my impasse instructions and going
Same, they
Really?
do
right
that
into.
too.
Yeah, mine
Yeah, and
weren't even doing it.
that's only for workers too. Is there an impasse flag for units,
No.
like combat
So
units? Yeah.
So
So
your
that's
combat units, I feel like they have GPS, but however they're using different settings for it. Some of them are using most direct, some of them are going without tolls, some of them are going, some of them are going, least stops at a stoplight, and that's why they all get there at different times, and half of them are dead by the time they get there. So I completely understand that one.
yeah,
So
and that was something
with
that
the,
had. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
I was say with the minions, I had. I was thinking. I think it actually isn't this mission, but either the next one or the one or the last. I can't remember which one it was. But I did have issues with them not following the impasse, and I think what I actually ended up doing was I just made them create earth walls to
Yeah, I
block off.
I ended up doing that
and
too.
then just stop them. I think you could also make a portcullis and then just be like, no, and you can like force it closed, and
Yeah.
no one can go through it at that point.
Mhm.
Um, but so as far as like the your typical like grunt units, I never had any issues with them. They always followed my instructions pretty well. Like the Oculus would explore on its own, but like I never had any other like actual military units go out of, my core area. The minions would explore on their own, but it's because they're going to claim tiles, and they will continually claim tiles until there's nothing left to
The
claim.
workers, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, but I'm referring to like when you're invading enemy territory, and there's so the inhibitor I want to break is right here, and all my armies are right here, and these rooms are full of enemies. I'm just like, just go straight up,
Yeah.
don't open those doors, break the inhibitor, let's bail, and then we'll go like 25% of my troops will go straight up, and then the rest of them are just like, let's bust down these doors, and then so at the end it's like a slaughter, and I have a fraction of my troops left, and maybe I've broken the inhibitor. And it's just like this all could have been avoided if you guys just didn't attack things that I didn't tell you to attack.
Well,
so
they.
I set the rally flag on the gate, and
Yeah.
most of the times
I
I would go
I do
for
too.
that directly.
Well,
Yeah,
I,
you'd think that would work. I don't know.
I don't know. I mean, they get aggroed, They're only going to listen so well.
They get
So,
aggro to doors though. Like if it was an enemy that
yeah.
was attacking them, I would understand if they didn't just like ignore it.
yeah.
Like if they're
I think they're
semi-intelligent.
just programmed to see it as like
Yeah.
it's antagonistic, even it's enemy, regardless if it has a health bar and it's an enemy. And they don't look at it as like, oh, this is a grunt, or this is a juggernaut or whatever. They're just like enemy, and they try to attack it. I don't know.
Yeah.
I didn't have
So,
much of an issue with it, but my armies were also so big most of the time that I had cannon fodder. So I was okay with him killing enemies most of the time, even if it would result with my people being knocked out. Because I have enough workers, they would just go and pick up my people and bring them back, and pick up any enemies and bring them back as well to the prison. So I was essentially just constantly getting cannon fodder, regardless if my guys were getting knocked out or not.
okay. So think about it like this, guys. These minions are not that smart. They're just listening to what they're told to do. So their master told them to go and invade this place. They didn't know what they were doing. They just did it anyway. And then when they got there, they didn't know what they were doing, so they just took a tour. So, you know, that just that just kind of happens sometimes, I guess. So, anyway,
Kurt's just bad at the game.
That's true. I don't deny that at all. I'm very bad at the game.
well, the minions aren't
Um,
that smart. They just follow. They're like, "Oh, go explore in here for fun. Start a riot. Okay, let's do it."
Also in this level, they're like, "Hey, you have this other, almost said dungeon master, dungeon underlord that's here to help. She's gonna help break the inhibitors, and then she breaks one, and then just does nothing for the rest of
Twiddles
the
her
level.
thumbs. Yeah.
And that was my strategy. I was just gonna sit there and let her break all the things, and no, I had to go and do all the work myself. And then at the end, John, if you want to tell the story thing, you can.
Yeah, yeah. I'll do that. So, so yeah, she pulled a group project on you, and she does the bare minimum, and then expects you to finish the rest and get a good grade on it. Ergo, destroying all the inhibitors. And you are successful finally. But one thing I want to point out: which direction did you guys try to attack whenever you went into this chapter? Did you try to go left or did you try to go right? And that was probably backwards, but just when you went
What do you
in,
mean?
whenever you went in to destroy the inhibitors, did you try to go left or did you try to go right?
We had to,
it was a big square.
yeah, I had to do both.
Oh, you
You're
did.
asking what we did first?
Yeah, yeah. The very first direction you went.
I think I went
Left?
left, which would have been west on the map.
Yeah. Oh,
Or
yeah.
Yeah.
I could have said that. That would have been a lot easier. Okay. So I had a lot of issues going west first. So I tried to go pretty early on when I had like a minimal army, and there were a lot of level 8s and level 10s in there, and my armies of level 1s to 3s were not handling that pretty well. So I actually went right after losing my whole army like once or twice, and whenever I went right instead of left, there were a lot lower level enemies over there. I'm sorry, east. Whenever I started going east, there were a lot lower level enemies over there, and so I figured out that if you take that east path and then go north and meet up with her army, it still doesn't help you, but it made getting that last inhibitor to the west a lot easier. So I was just curious if that was the same paths both of you had taken, or if you had just went went west and then went east and then that was it. You never went fully north. So I was just curious.
I think I went west and then east. I don't remember having any problems, but I just over planned everything. I mean, every time I played one of these, I just had so many troops that it just didn't matter by the
Yeah.
time I actually went for them.
Yeah, and I'm guessing you use that speed up and slow down on missions like this. Is that
Yeah,
right?
I never
Yeah.
slowed down, but
Yeah. Sped up.
I would hit that 150 though. It's
Yeah.
like 1.5 times speed. It was so nice.
Yeah, I just got impatient because I got tired of waiting, and I was just like, well, let's get this over with. I have so
Mm.
many more chapters to do, and I think that's ultimately why I had the issue with this chapter. Because if I would have had, all of my minions there instead of only 25%, then I'm sure that would have went a lot easier. So
Got to move that flag. Small steps. Small steps.
no, I meant just like they never. By the time I sent my warriors in, like I only had 25% of my minions. I never got even close to the cap of minions I could have, just because I
Oh, gotcha.
was very
You're
impatient
just
in
doing it
waiting
too
on
fast.
them.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
I get
that's
what you mean.
it's kind of a failing on my part though. But to finish up the chapter, um, we successfully destroy all four inhibitors, and then we get a nice, beautiful cutscene of our wonderful artifacts, the Kinos, just floating in the air, and we can go claim it. However, Mira decides that she wants to take it all for herself, and she grabs this artifact and then just disappears into her realm. And so that is when we get to chapter 11. And was there anything else you wanted to say about that, Kurt? I know you were asking me to.
No, I'm good.
Oh, okay. I just wanted to make sure I
So
wasn't missing anything. Go ahead.
I think it's not the end of the world, but I think it was poor planning where the story isn't like the main real focus of this game. It's the other stuff outside of it, like the sandbox mode and competitive play against people online,
Mm-hmm.
whatever. But they did a really bad job of having there's only like two females in the game that are named. And one is Kira and one is Mira.
There's three.
And I was like, is there?
Yeah, there's three. There's Gold Lady.
Yeah, Gold Lady. As
I
you can
forgot about
tell,
Gold
Could you-
Lady.
she's named,
How
but
could
none
you
of us
forget
remember
Gold
the name.
Lady?
Yeah.
Well, ignoring Gold Lady, this one we had just like 2 levels earlier had Kira like talk to us, and then Mira shows up in the dungeon, and Mendikaus is like, "Oh yeah, here's Mira. She's gonna help." And I was like, "Wait, she's bad though, or well, bad by our standards." And then she like took the thing, and then
And then she
and I
actually
ended
is
up
bad.
realizing like the next mission, I was like, "Wait, no, this isn't. That's Kira. This is the wrong person." It's really small detail, but
Yeah.
like considering again, there's only like maybe 10 name characters total. They could have picked something a little bit
Right. It's like
more
when you
different.
write a
Wait,
book, you don't have people with similar names.
yeah, they were inspired by
Unless you're George R. R.
Tolkien.
Martin.
I was gonna say they're inspired by Tolkien.
See, George R. R. Martin has there's like 15 Johns just within like the first book.
Hey,
So
I
just
resemble that
But
statement.
at least with those, they're like family and like named after family and stuff, right?
no, not always.
Oh no,
It's just
I'm thinking of Rob, not John. Um,
well, he's named after a friend. But I mean,
well,
that's
yeah,
realistic though, and I like that because like everyone, names are shared in our world, and they should be shared in other worlds. It's complicated if you're new to it, but let's just keep
yeah.
going. I'll talk
Well,
about
no,
this all
no,
day.
I'm not done. The downside to the one flaw in Lord of the Rings is that A, there's like three female characters, and B, that two of them are named the same thing. One of them is Eowyn, and one of them's Arwen, and those are basically the same names, and it's very strange that that happens. Anyway, we can move on. I just wanted to get that off my chest.
All right, back to
It's
our
almost
Lord of
like
the
he was
Rings.
sexist.
Back to our Lord of the Rings discussion. Okay, so however, we're not talking about rings. My bad. We're talking about artifacts, and our artifact has been stolen.
What
So
a transition.
thank you. I'm here all
You
next
could
two
have just
hours.
said anyway, but
No, that
that works.
would be too easy, too simple.
No, he's a professional writer.
Yeah, I don't get paid for this, but I'm a professional. Anyway, so that leads us to Mira's realm. So we're going to take back the artifact that has been stolen from us. And so This chapter's name is Desperate Power. And so that's kind of basically what happened here when Mira decided she was going to steal this and run away. So we're in a race against Mira to build a more better dungeon and destroy her dungeon core so we can take back the Kinos. However, we have a timer on this level. If we do not complete this within 30 minutes, she is going to activate the powers of the Kinos, and I never actually let her do it. So I'm not quite sure what she would have done with it, but I know it wouldn't have been good for us. So that brings us to chapter 11, and I believe this is the chapter where the Titans are now an option for us. And I didn't quite understand the powers of the Titan until I was being destroyed by it. So it took a few tries before I decided to try one out, but they were
Are
very
Titans
amazing.
in this level or the next level? Because I thought you get Titans when you get the Kinos.
No, you get them in this level.
Oh, my bad.
Yeah, I
Pretty
believe
sure.
she attacks you with one the longer the level goes.
Yeah. Hmm.
Gotcha.
That's what destroyed me a lot, was the fact that she had one before I did, and I was like, no, 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 no. So we're gonna go back and make acolytes first. So, all right. So
That's right.
chapter,
Cultists.
yeah, that too. So chapter 11.
No, you're good.
Any thoughts on chapter 11?
So,
This one was kind of
go.
disappointing. Just because I was ready to like do my normal outrageous base building, have 50 troops go in, bum rush.
Mm-hmm.
But you're on a timer, so I think you're limited to like half an hour, maybe a
Yes.
little bit longer. But you didn't really require many troops at all. I mean,
Not if you can
pretty
beat them in a
much 10
race.
minutes of preparation, you probably could have bum rushed her. I didn't. I think I waited to like 20 minutes in, but at that point, I was already like pushing it. Like I was just cleaning through her troops, and I was like, man, this is a little too easy because I think my minions were claiming tiles faster than she could like produce troops, and so I was just spamming lightning on her troops, and I wasn't even have to like fight her with my guys. And so by the time I
Mhm.
actually sent them in, I think I destroyed her. I ended up
Core.
creating a Titan, the Behemoth, and just sent him in with like 4 or 5 troops, and it was over really really easily. I mean, I guess I kind of understand because you're trying to wipe her out quickly, but there wasn't really that much resistance. So, nah, I don't know. You guys might have had a different story. Maybe you didn't create a Titan, so you had a bit more trouble. But like I said, for me, I wasn't even trying to bum rush her like at the very beginning. I waited pretty late and still had an easy time of it.
So I didn't use the Titans because I guess I misinterpreted the dialogue, and I thought it said like once you have the Kinos, you'll be able to use it to summon Titans, and I was like, cool, not really important right now, but thanks for letting me know. So I just brushed that aside. Um, I got roasted on this level the first time
I, I
because
I
I
had problems too.
because I'm bad. Because I'm bad at this game, and unlike Ryder, I can't efficiently build up an army and then defend a base and then charge. So I unabashedly, unapologetically looked up like some strats. You know, not a step-by-step guide, but
Recommendations.
just
Hmm.
just some recommendations like how to deal with this, and ended up settling on. So the way the map works is like her core is here, and then the land kind of like hooks around, and there's like a gap. So you can't just like charge her first. You have to like go through her dungeon a little bit.
Hmm.
I ended up putting a bunch of bombards at the edge of that gap because they could reach across it and attack anything that was near the dungeon core. And then I built up like a modest group of troops and sent them in. And the bombards helped defend them and basically supplement my numbers. And because it was across the gap, they weren't really being attacked, so I didn't have to worry about repairing them. And this is also the level where the possession spell became my best friend because I would just I possessed the Bafus. By the way, did you guys get the loading screen tip that was like, did you know Bafu is an acronym that stands for it's yeah, it's like BA flying unit. I was like, oh, that's really
That's it.
funny.
I got it the
uh,
second you said it, but I did not get that one.
but yeah, so then using the possessing the Bafo, like when you possess them, they get more powerful. Um, really nauseating first person perspective, but I just like flew away over the gap where they couldn't attack me. And so my troops, I think, ended up dying out by the end of it. But I just sat there and spammed like fireball, breath attack or whatever until the core was destroyed. So it was a battle of attrition more than strategy or anything like that.
Hmm. Yeah,
Yeah, I
so
never tried it. I wish I would have tried possessing the Titans. I don't know if either of you tried
I
that.
I got stories for you. We'll get there
Okay, we'll
though.
wait
I've
then.
got stories.
I did not use the possession in any of the second half of this game, just because I was so busy doing the macro for the battles and then the micro of the lightning and the heals. I just didn't have time to do it. Could I have? Probably. Would it have helped? Yeah, probably. But you know, hindsight's 2020. So, but I can agree. I'm probably in the middle ground between you two. One's very easy. One had a more difficult time before the strategies. But I think I did it one time and then I realized the Titans how important those were and how quickly those respawn. 5 minutes seems like a long time, but when it comes to when you're fighting off multiple armies and you're trying to set up a base and then you're going to attack, that 5 minutes where they respawn after they die, it's pretty short. Especially after you've used all your troops to take out the one Titan the enemy has, and you're like, okay, good, now I can rebuild and let my troops come back, and then here comes their Titan again. So it's nice to be able to fight that with your own Titan. Throw Aaron in there and let him have at it. So thank you for the laughs, appreciate it. I have more Attack on Titan jokes later on. Again, I'm here all day. Okay, so we finally break through. Anyone else have any info on Chapter 11?
Think we're good?
Okay, so we finally break through Mira's defenses and we beat her in this war against base building here, and we successfully defeat Mira, and we are successfully able to complain. We're able to claim the Kinos, and that's going to lead us into Chapter 12. So with this Kinos, we're going to make a lot of the other Underlords feel a lot of emotions really quickly. Probably by the end of this chapter, spoiler alert, they're probably feeling regret, but for now they're feeling anger that they want that they don't have this power, and so they know that they can't fight us on one-on-one combat. There's no fight to the death here, no honor, of course. We're just gonna get into this Moonwell and knock them out. There's no honor here, and that's going to lead us to the snow slip down. So this is going to be called Subjugation, and so they're going to try to subjugate us, but there are three of them attacking us. There's no way they could fail against that, right? 3-on-1. Well, they didn't think about the power of the Kinos coming to our defense here, and it also has granted us a very special power. We are now red, and that's how you know we're going to win this.
That was very jarring. I was just like shooting lightning immediately. I was like, hold on, hold on, what's happening?
Wait a minute. So,
God, I think this game's taught me that I'm not very smart. I think that's basically what we've learned from this experience.
yeah,
But
just
please
the whole
continue.
backlog crew. Just the whole backlog crew in general makes me feel so stupid. Just the things that I could be doing in these games to make my life easier just doesn't happen. But okay, so to explain what's going on for subjugation, we are surrounded by three other underlords. Why these underlords are built next to the castle of the emperor, we don't know. But we're just going to ignore that for now, and we're going to explain that they are surrounding us. So one underlord has two dungeon cores, and the others have one apiece. And so we have one to our directions northwest, one to our southwest, and then the one that has two dungeon cores is to our northeast. And so now we're going to be surrounded on all sides, building a dungeon and using our Kinos artifact to help defend ourselves. Because if we use this like a ritual, it will shut off their defenses and it will drain their mana pools and not allow them to complete their own rituals. So this is our item that's going to help us out a little bit in not dying so quickly. So I know those were a lot of words. So Ryder told us about chapter 11. So Kurt, let's hear about chapter 12. What do you think?
So, as someone who had like a decent amount of trouble in the last level, like fighting off one uh dungeon underlord,
Mm-hmm.
I was very intimidated by the prospect of like fighting three. And so the first time, I got roasted. I tried to attack Blue Skull Brothos to the northwest and just got destroyed. Um, and I just yeah, there's like two skull guys, but the blue one, not the purple one. I just got completely destroyed. But then the second time I did the level, I was like, huh, what if I just bum rush one of them as fast as I can and then take all their resources and then slowly build an army from there? Because the problem I was running into is trying to slowly build the resource, build the army on my own. The other dungeons were doing the exact same thing. So by the time I went to any one of them, they were already well fortified, which I'm sure
Were
you
you
know.
using Titans?
I did start summoning Titans. I don't know that I did the first time, but the second time I started doing it. Um, and so I used the Titan and the troops that I had bum rushed. It was also about finding the paths of least resistance
Hmm.
because there's some pretty obvious, just like, hey, go this direction. There's like an open line right there, but that's really not the best way to go. You need to use the prophecy spell to dig around, figure out where the least amount of traps and least amount of extra rooms are. So I managed to find paths where I only had to go through one room of their dungeon before I got to the core for both the Northwest Underlord and the Southwest Underlord. And so just bum rushing the Gold Lady, as we talked about earlier, destroying her, and then just immediately my resources doubled, if not tripled, because her dungeon was so much bigger than mine. And
Hmm.
then I was able to sort of go back to my home turf and just sort of regroup. Found and while I was regrouping, my minions were getting happy again. I found the path of least resistance when I attacked the guy to the northwest, rinse and repeat until the level was over. So uh, I was really frustrated when I first started it, but I think this is probably my second favorite level in this section. The Crypt is my favorite just because it's a change of pace, and I don't know that RTS is my thing, but I ended up enjoying this. It was really rewarding every time you took a step towards completing the level than it just being a struggle all the way until the end.
Hmm. Okay. Ryder?
So this was my favorite, I think, in the entire game. This level, I um, I didn't have any major issues with this one. I didn't have to restart or anything. Um, but I really got, for whatever reason, just kind of clicked with me, like how to plan a dungeon. And so I just, as soon as I got the opportunity, I spawned every minion I could, or every worker that is. Um, you get a huge boost to your mana pool. I think it goes up to like 2,500 now. And so total minions spawned, I think I got to like 49. Awesome. So many workers. And, I would go and use prophecy. And as soon as I got the chance, I immediately excavated to where I had two summoning gates available and then found the biggest patch of gold. And this is all probably within like a minute and immediately excavated all that gold. And that put me at like 30,000 gold, like that. Then immediately took that, made like 12 barracks, just massive. Gnarling spawned immediately. Um, so all this, uh, including like, your cultists using the archive, everything like that. And then immediately spawned a Titan. All this within like 15 minutes, um, maybe 20 minutes tops. For whatever reason, like I said, it just kind of clicked. I went to the Northwest, and Draven is that guy's name. It's the only one I remember because I heard it the most. Um, Immediately ran over to him and like tore him to pieces. Did not stand a chance.
Is that
Uh,
northwest?
yeah, Northwest.
Hmm.
And I was like, all right, let's go. And so I went ahead and decided to do the exact same thing with Gold Lady in the Southwest. And so you know, during this time, I'm having my workers dig out as much gold as possible and spawning in people. I probably at this point had like 35, 40 minions total, actual like fighting units. And that's including like monsters and stuff, beasts, whatever you want to call them. And I dug one little tile open into her dungeon and started sending them in. And Gold Lady, apparently, in like the 15 minutes or so, 10 minutes that it took me to do whatever I had to do to the guy in the
She
Northwest,
don't play.
was ready. And she tore me to shreds. Like
Hmm.
I immediately lost every one of my troops, including my like Titan. And like I was spamming heal over and over, and it didn't matter. Like they just tore through me. And it's because all of her, I don't know how, but all of her monsters were like level 7 up. And so I think by pure numbers, I overwhelmed them. But she had maybe 10 less monsters than me, but they're all so much higher. They're all double my levels at least. And so I didn't stand a chance. Um, and so I ended up having to do what Kurt was saying, that regroup. Um, Thankfully, I had plenty of torture chambers and prisons, so I immediately started taking her monsters and throwing them in. Like, come on, give me some more meat for the grinder. And after probably like 20 minutes of just spamming the shock spell anytime her troops would enter my dungeon, I ended up taking her over. But this one was a little more challenging in like the best way possible because the other when you're fighting against like the Empire, for example, they don't use spells against you. But these other underlords use the shock spell and they
Hmm.
use heal and everything else. And it makes a difference.
Especially on their
Uh,
Titans when they heal those.
exactly. When like, when you're in their turf, like in their core area, and they're like shock, they can just start like laying out every one of your troops. And
They
it's
pull a
just,
me.
oh no. Exactly. But mechanically, there's small changes here. Like we get the 2,500 mana, which is a huge boost. The mana now, like the cooldown rate, is a lot lower on it now. Or so, before you had to wait maybe like 3 or 4 seconds for your mana to start recharging. Now it's like maybe a second, and it recharges like twice as fast.
It's
So
really convenient.
it was very convenient. A lot of things felt more viable with this. Um, it just the gameplay, the speed in general picked up, and I think that's smart because this campaign. I kind of said it before with an RTS like this, the campaign's fun, but
Hmm.
really it's more of a larger tutorial so that when someone gets ready to play online or play in sandbox mode or challenge mode or whatever it is, they know what they're doing. And I feel like this is closer to the core game, like real speed. And now that you've played 12 levels at this point, you're pretty much ready to actually play against, a computer that's closer to your level rather than these like preset scenarios. Um, so like I said, this was my favorite. By the time I got to the guy in the east, it didn't matter. I was so powerful at that point. I think I just sat and like twiddled my thumbs for like 10 minutes after I took out Gold Lady, let my troops build up. It was overwhelming. They didn't stand a chance.
Okay. Perfect. Well, I can tell you my strategy for this mission. This is really when I put those Ember Demons into play. So I had about, I don't know, 10 or 15 of them, somewhere in that range. And so what I would do is I just let the workers do their thing. I'll be building up my dungeon, and I would send the Ember Demons to the edge. And let's see, I attacked northwest first as well. So we opened up an area, and it happened to be part of his dungeon. So I was like, you know what? I'll just leave the Ember Demons right there. And then when I started doing the revelations, I was like, man, I'm pretty close to his dungeon core already. Okay, well I'll amass a good bit of troops, and I'll make sure I have my Titan ready. And then I go over there, and I just straight up put my rally flag for the Ember Demons on his dungeon core, and as well as the Titan and the units. And we get over there pretty easy for this first one, and my workers actually end up stealing some of the tiles near his dungeon core, and I'm able to put up bombards to compensate some of my own minions because he kept reinforcing himself with more minions himself. And so I just kept healing, and then I put the bombards there, and then we just destroy him. And then I was very excited to know that I just automatically take over all these areas that are his. And it turns out he's been tunneling around my base the whole time, trying to like corner me in and get ready for an invasion of his own. So I beat him to that, and then as you had mentioned, you went south west and fought the Gold Lady. If you don't fight her first, she has so many minions, like you had mentioned, level 8, level 10. And so my strategy for that was kind of like what I did with this guy. I set up a defensive perimeter on where I wanted to invade. I put a bunch of bombards, portcullises, all of that. Got ready to invade. I had my workers destroy the walls there, and the workers just flooded in, trying to take over her area. And then I pushed forward with all of my units, and she wiped through most of them. However, I could supplement my units with more bombards and other things I could place on the ground because I could quickly use my spells to put the parts in, so I could have those bombards set up, and they could tank some of that damage and keep the area at least relatively safe for me. But then she started pushing into my territory, but luckily I had those defenses set up to keep her off track, and I was able to push her back, and we had like a basically I took some, she took some, and then we ended up right in the middle, kind of like a war that may have happened at some point. But um, anyway, so that line stayed pretty consistent for a bit there till I could build up my armies again, and then we've powered through, and then I just sent the Ember Demons in to her main dungeon core there, and just spammed heal on them while they were attacking her core. She would send in units, but they couldn't outpace the healing just because of the our wonderful artifact makes us respawn so much of our mana so quickly that I would just take over, and then same
Mhm.
tactic applied to the very last Underlord, and that really did it for me. So, anyone have any other comments on Chapter 12? I would also agree that that was the most realistic, I would say, combat-wise for this game on how difficult it would be. Um, any
So
other
Yeah,
comments?
I just you go ahead.
no, I was just gonna say, yeah, this one felt like it didn't feel like a tutorial. It felt like use what you've learned to like overcome these odds. All these upgrades, it felt great, and like I said, just the gradual progress throughout. If I was good at RTSs, then this probably would have been my favorite level. But because I still struggled a little bit, the I'm still gonna have to say Chapter 8 probably was my favorite in this section. Go ahead,
So
Ryder.
something we talked about before, and I'm not trying to like jump the gun, but like it, this game is extremely complex, and I think that is a good thing. But it just drops the ball in so many ways, just not explaining things. And you have the whole sins thing, which is essentially your skill tree, which is it makes no sense as far as how you level up, how you progress through it. It's just kind of ignored after like the halfway point in the game, so you can go use it. You don't have to though. But when I'm in like the throes of combat,
Hmm.
I don't have time to go and like actually look through everything. So what I ended up doing most of the time was if I had like 5 cents and I didn't have anywhere to spend them, I would just go to the tree and just click until I bought everything that I could. Um,
I thought you were gonna say you'd summon a Titan.
well, I mean, if I already had a Titan, that I
Yeah,
would
I
just
gotcha.
use it for that. But like the people who are really, really into RTS games, I could see them just loving this. And like I can't even imagine the amount of like micro and macro managing that goes into like a game of this. Like if someone were to play this competitively online, like I watch people play like StarCraft or like Total
Absolutely.
War, and Total War has a lot, and like Age of Empires, and I enjoy watching that. But I can't even imagine like there's so many spells that go into this, and like the troop types aren't extremely deep here, but there's just so much that goes into like the whole base planning part. Plus, like I didn't even know that you could use the spell to click a foundry part, which almost makes Chunders useless. But I don't know. But then
It
you have to have
does,
the
yeah.
foundry for the augers, so I don't know. Anyways, there's just a lot going on. Almost too much, but I'll wait. I'll wait.
All right. Any other comments for Chapter 12?
Mm-mm.
Okay, we are successfully able to take out all three of these Underlords. They're finally feeling that regret I was talking about earlier. And that leads us to Chapter 13. We have successfully ravaged and destroyed this whole land except for the final castle. This leads us to Uther's Landing. And so this one's called Equilibrium. And so this is going to be our final assault on the castle. It's going to be a very important battle. That's going to really show just who's going to win this. Is it going to be these good guys that we've been destroying, or is it going to be the evil Underlord and Mendicos? and just what exactly is going to happen after we take over this realm. So I guess the only way to find out is this for to continue forward. So let's talk about our final assault. So just getting into this, you start, you know, like you usually do. You have nothing, and you just have to build up from that just one more time to finish this. And as you start revealing the areas, you'll see that actually this is a pretty well designed castle. It has a crypt on the side, and the other side has a giant forge. And these are going to be used to help defend this castle. And within the castle itself are 8 gateways that are going to be backing up the emperor as he continues to just sound very crazy as he tries to talk to us and just explain like how on the edge he is of sanity.
It's
So
it's a very strange dichotomy because he sounds and talks like a villain from Shrek. But then you go fight him and he's like a Dark Souls boss.
right,
As far as like the way he like actually fights in combat, it's very strange. Especially when you're in the middle of battling him and he's just mowing your units down, or at least my units down.
yes,
And then he like makes a pun, and it's like, what's going
yes,
on here?
On the subject of dialogue, we talked about it before, but I heard some new stuff this time. I just want to bring it up real quick.
go for it.
So the voice actor who plays Mendicals apparently has been doing the voice acting for the series for a while. And I didn't even know this as far as the history, but apparently this is a part of the larger Dungeon Keeper series, I
I
think is
had
what it's
no
called.
idea, never heard of it.
Yeah. So it's been going on for a while. This is kind of like the spiritual successor. I don't even know if that's technically correct. It's really just a direct sequel to the first two games. Um, it's just that it's a bit more beefed up than the original two were. The old two were closer to old school RTSs, but keeping with the whole idea of being a dungeon builder. But Richard something, I think is his name. I can't remember, but the guy that plays Mendicals has been doing it for a while. At one point, he mentions, "One of your gnarlings has gone crazy
Oh
from
yeah,
being in a video game for too long," or something. And it's like, that's kind of funny. And there's another point where he says, when I first started doing this, this was a lot more sprightly." And it's referring to like
Oh,
the original games were like more sprite looking, like I guess like early 2000s, late 90s textures. So it wasn't the whole 3D, it was actual 2D sprites. So that's kind of interesting as well.
yeah.
yeah,
Um,
that's really cute. I was just gonna say on the tangent of like talking about all the like quirky dialogue. He says some funny things like
Hmm.
when he's not yelling at you to feed your units or something like that. He just has like quirky dialogue, and a lot of times it's made to make you think something's wrong, but then actually it's fine. And so like one point, I'm not gonna do the voice because I can't do voices, but he was like, "Oh no, the ground in your dungeon's getting dry. You better water it immediately." And
I didn't get
I'm
that
just
one.
like, "What's happening?" And then I was like, "Oh, it's just a dumb joke." But I don't know. It would always
yeah.
make me giggle and bring some levity, even though I was
Hmm.
rapidly dying.
I got one in this one too. He said, "One of your minions has been bad mouthing you. Don't worry, I put something in his food. You won't have to worry about him anymore."
I got one that was like the opposite of that. It was like, wow, it turns out one of your workers is a genius. And I'm like, okay, great.
Yeah,
That's lovely.
I think I got that one.
Beautiful Mendicals. He's
Going
so
to the,
nice.
I love Mendicals. I don't remember what we are talking about before, but we're talking about chapter 13. So
Yeah,
I'm just gonna hit that if that's
go for it.
okay.
Yeah,
Um, this was kind of a letdown compared to the last level.
I would say it's a
Um,
lot easier. Yes,
yeah,
absolutely.
there was no real moments of me being like, "Oh no, I'm actually worried about losing." Like, even though he was sending massive waves, I don't think I ever had an issue with them. There was
You can lightning those waves
copious
down.
amounts of gold. Do what?
You can just lightning
Exactly,
those
exactly.
waves down. Yeah,
And so I immediately spawned max
workers.
workers. And so I have 49 workers, and there's a whole lot of space here. But I mean, I could highlight the max amount of space and have them clear it out within 30
Yep,
seconds, and then within like a
same.
minute, have them place like actual claimable tiles on it. I mean, I was running out of gold. There was one point where I think I ended up creating enough gold vaults between, all the gold that's in the walls and also the two infinite gold
Hmm.
shrines.
Shrines.
I ended up having a vault capacity of 150,000 and could not use it fast enough. Like I used up all of my available space, and like and maybe it's just me over planning because I think I ended up taking an hour and 45 minutes to finish this one.
Oh yeah.
But like I the thing is there was no like need for me to do anything. He was
Right.
just
He doesn't
moving
really
so
have time,
slowly,
and he lets
and
you
I was
go.
like, yeah, exactly. And I was like, well, I'm just gonna keep on building this up. And
He
so I did, and I did, and I did until eventually I had like 80 troops. I mean, I had two massive prisons that held like 50 apiece, and or one was like 30, one was like 20 actually, so it's like 50 total.
hmm
But I mean, like I just constantly had meat for the grinder and was just taking my time with it. Um, and it could have been harder if I didn't do that. But the thing is, again, I could just lightning down anyone. I had such a large mana pool. I could create as many workers as necessary. I would have had to personally make it harder by adding hurdles there, like, okay, I can't spawn extra workers or whatever to make that level harder for me. And maybe I just had a different experience from YouTube, but I mean, again, my previous strategy of just laying down, I think I laid down by the end of it like 20 barracks total, all the other, unit spawning areas. I had so much it didn't matter.
Right. hmm
John, why don't you go ahead and
Okay.
tell how your thing went?
All right. So this level took me about 45 minutes. So um, my strategy was the Ember Demons worked so well last time. I'm just gonna spawn a bunch of those and let them do their thing again, and then partner them with my Titan. So that's what I did. I ended up deciding to go northeast to the crypts and just sending the Ember Demons in, see if I can take out some of those optional objectives. I only ended up taking down one of the guys in there you're supposed to, because I thought I was just gonna clear that area and my workers take it over, but that wasn't the case. My workers actually never went over there and started taking any land, so I just okay. Well, there's not much defenses here when it comes to people. There's just the Empire's equivalent of a necromancer, and so I decided to just muster all my units on the western gate of the castle, and I readied my ritual, which is something I didn't mention at the beginning of this. I apologize. At the beginning, it's mentioned that there is the word I'm looking for, a barrier around the castle, and the only way through the barrier is to prepare our ritual with our artifact to shut it down very briefly, so we can let our soldiers in, our minions and our demons and all the other. And so while I was preparing that ritual, I got everyone at the gate and ready to go because wasn't quite sure how long it would stay open. And so I readied that, had it going, and then sent all of my units in after it. And then I was successfully able to take down half of the gateways and make it to about the midway of the castle. And then it's telling me about some drawbridges. I had no idea what it was talking about, how to take those down to get to the heart of the castle. And so finally, my units got very angry with me because they wanted to be paid and fed and all this other nonsense. And so I ended up losing most of my force in the castle, and I had to rebuild because I couldn't prepare a ritual to get them out in the amount of time that they were being annoyed with me. So yeah, they just kind of stayed in there until they were gone, and then I remustered my forces, figured out how to take down the drawbridges, just put all four of my flags on the drawbridge for all the different types of units I had. It destroyed one, destroyed the other, and I got to the heart of the thing. And I won't talk about what happens when you get in there just yet, because I'll let Kurt talk about his strategies here and how it went for him.
So
Okay,
before you like
yeah, go ahead.
let's say before Kirk goes, just want to say like John, it's funny because you're like all four of my flags,
hmm
and like my strategy is so different from like you two. Like Kurt was like pulling like the defensive stuff earlier. He's like, oh, I'm using like bombards with like some troops, and
hmm
John's like, oh, I have four different troop flags. I'm like, no, me strong man, one flag.
So
I'm just like
when I say four, I'm talking about the Titan flag, the Beast flag, the Ember Demon flag, and then the Rally All flag.
that's too much micro. I literally just one flag and everyone just rushes in and like I just quantity over quality. Like I don't care. Like, well, this unit's really good skirmisher, or like this is good for taking down obstacles, but not people. I was just like, nope. everyone goes except for like, my cultists and my succubi, I guess, would stay, but everyone else just go into the grinder.
Um, John, I'll tell
Yes.
my part, but may I go straight into like the final boss section
Yes,
at the end?
you can end it for us.
Okay.
Yeah, go for it.
So, I thought this was a well-designed level because there were so many things going on. Because when you start out, you're like, oh, well, it looks like it's just a straight shot from literally where I'm starting to the throne room. But then you start using prophecy to like clear the fog, and you're like, oh, well, there's a drawbridge, so actually I can't just like go straight. I have to go around and break the like mechanisms that are holding the drawbridge up. And it's like that's kind of cool. And then it's like, oh, there's gateways that the Empire is using to bring in reinforcements. So if you don't take those down, like it's going to be harder. And then over here to the east, there's all these people who are basically just like workmen, and they're going to like come and repair any defenses that you break, so that anytime you have to retreat and then go back in, you're starting at square one. And then finally, in the west, there's a group of priestesses or sorceresses or something who are trying to revive like as far as I understood, like an undead force to like come and burden you even further. So the
I
first
think
time
they're
I tried this,
ever an issue for me personally. I don't know if you guys had an issue with them. I don't remember ever seeing them.
so I gotta like, he yelled one time, "It's like you're going to, they're gonna be done in 10 minutes. Hurry!"
Yeah,
And I
he
was
said
like,
that too.
"Yeah." So first time I was like really worried about that undead force for whatever reason, and so I built up my army, and he was like 10 minutes, and I was like, okay. So at 5 minutes until they were supposedly going to do it, I sent all my forces in charging, and then at 1 minute before they're supposedly done, the emperor was like, all right, everybody attack. And I was like, oh no, because I have all my units on this side of the map, and he just sent straight down to my dungeon core, and there's just nobody there because I, like Ryder, don't use multiple flags, and so I just had nothing to help me, and so I lost that round. um
So where
but
did
now I'm
his
going to tell you
troops
the
come in
story.
at? Sorry,
They were in the castle,
they
and they
just
just
came
like charged straight down.
north to south. Really?
Yeah, just straight. Yeah, because I had built some rooms, and maybe that was my fault. Is I'd cleared a path because like,
Hmm.
well, once I'm done with the necromancers or whatever, I'll charge straight up and get them, which is probably a mistake. But anyway, I
I didn't
died.
realize that.
They take the
Yeah,
shortest path. So if you open up something for them, because I did that at the very end, and they all came. Oh, they all came from the center, and that's the only time I did get scared in this mission because I wasn't looking near there, and they're
hmm,
like, "Dungeon Lord, your core is under attack," and I was like, "What?"
yeah,
And I clicked
exactly.
over and had like 7 or 8 people like smashing it.
I'll let you finish your story, Kurt. But um, maybe the reason I found this a lot easier is because the only path that I opened up to get to the castle was as far southwest as you could go to get into the crypts. So every time his troops attacked me, they took that long side path, and then I never
Mm,
carved out anything in between that gold shrine and my base. So there was just one small hallway they had to get through, and I just would send my troops that way, and they would just catch them in that hallway, and I would just lightning all of them and heal. So I guess
you guys are so
I,
smart.
well, I didn't do that on purpose. I just got lucky. So anyway,
No, you guys are so smart.
I'll let you continue
Uh,
your story.
all right. So the second time, I thought back to what happened in chapter 11, and I thought, what if I just bum rush the enemy as fast as possible? So what I did is I just highlighted the all the earth between me and them, and just like a giant block. And I, for like 10 minutes, I just built tons of rooms and built up like a pretty decent sized army. Probably not the most effective way to build the army, but I did what I could. Summoned a Titan. Um, John, you mentioned earlier like not having time for like your rituals to go off to like escape. There actually is really cool, like hidden in the corners, in like little crevices. There's a lot of artifacts that you can use to just sort of like automatically like fire off those rituals, which was really helpful for me.
Right, yeah.
Um,
I actually, it turns out, had three of those. I just I didn't realize I had them until my army was gone, and I was like, well, this would have came in handy, 3 minutes ago, but okay.
Next time.
Yep.
But yes, so I used that. I didn't even worry about like waiting for the ritual to go off. I summoned a behemoth, and I was like, all right, let's go. And then I possessed the behemoth, and then I just charged. Like I had the whole army charge straight ahead, and then took the behemoth and just ran past all the enemies, and then ran through like all the side rooms with just the behemoth straight to the drawbridge mechanisms and destroyed those. And then I ran back out. And then I ran around and I destroyed the other one and I came back. And at that point, like 70% of my forces were dead, but all of their forces were dead. So the drawbridge was down, beat down the main door. I was like, I'm going to destroy the Emperor right now. And it's going to be less than like 20 minutes. And I'm going to be amazing at this game at the very end. So I beat the door down and he has some guards with him. Level 10. He's also level 10. There's a dramatic battle as I'm backed in the corner fighting off the 4 guards while the Emperor fights off the rest of my remaining forces.
He has like
I
20,000 health too.
Yeah, you can kill
He
Lord Farquaad,
has
though. You got this.
way too much health. So yeah, I'm fighting. I'm backed in the corner, destroying all those enemies. I'm still possessing the behemoth, but every few attacks, I'll like unpossess them and then like spam heal and then possess them again. And I eventually got all 4 or however many of his guardsmen down. And then I knocked out, but then the Emperor had knocked out the rest of my forces. So it's really like just me and him. And it's that point that I realized that I had just completely rejected the notion of an RTS at this point. Because it was now a first person brawler, and I was literally just going back and forth, trading blows with this guy, healing as fast as I could. And it was taking forever because he has so much health, and his health like restores gradually. And all my attacks are on a cooldown. So, I might be dealing 5,000 damage over the course of 10 seconds, but the rate he's healing, I'm only dealing like 3. And so it was taking forever. But I finally get him down to like below half health, and I've realized like the pacing where if I just like back out and I heal, then like I'm gonna win this. It's gonna be fine. And then I hear your dungeon core is under attack, and I think
That's not good.
this is over. This is game set match, and I like briefly struggle to like zap some fools while also saving enough mana to like keep my behemoth alive. And eventually my core was destroyed, and it was 5:30 today. And I was not able to
You didn't finish the game.
succeed in the war for the overworld. I will readily admit that I couldn't do it.
There's
If
so
I had-
many games you've done this with, Kurt. You can't do it with another one.
Hold on. So many games that I've done this with. Hold on. We're going to go on a tangent here. I've done this with one other game.
I know the game.
Literally, and I'll say the game. I am not ashamed of anything. It was Sekiro Shadows Die Twice, which is an amazing game. And it's hard, and it's great
Dark
that it's
Souls
hard.
3.
Oh, I was going to say Dark Souls 3.
Dark Souls 3 wasn't a choice. You literally were like, all right, I'm moving out and taking the PS4 with me, and that was the only way I had to play it. I intend to go back and do another playthrough one day, but don't make it sound like... No, I've been playing the other Souls-likes, but don't make it sound like, oh, you decided it was too hard and you couldn't finish Dark Souls 3. No, I fully intend to go back to that. That was out of my control. Sekiro,
You
I
could
got to
have
the
stayed
final
up all
boss.
night.
To the audience.
It was the middle of the day. It
To
was the middle of the day.
We actually are all friends here, we swear.
Maybe not now, but but Sekiro, no, I stand by my decision in Sekiro because the final boss, mild spoilers, I guess. There's 5 phases. There's 5 phases to the final boss of Sekiro, and it's a full health bar for each phase. And I'm not saying it's too hard. I'm just saying it was of a hard enough difficulty that I felt fine just accepting my progress and saying, no, you're good. Okay. I felt fine just saying, you know what? I have nothing to prove to myself. Like, I'm not having a good time doing this. I'm going to move on. and I did that. I did that with one other game. With this one, I would have tried again. I managed my time poorly. My brother called me this afternoon. We haven't talked in a long time, so I talked to him and lost an hour. So, Kyle, if you're watching this is your fault that Ryder's being mean to me right now. But no,
Okay,
yeah. So I didn't beat it. Yeah, go ahead.
back to our raiding the
It's
castle to
fine.
save
It's
Princess
fine.
Fiona. Okay, so there's a lot to break down here. Okay, so we did not get a finish here, but I mean, you basically did it. You missed the most important cutscene, but just one
I
cutscene.
watched the cutscene.
Oh,
I literally hold on. I literally beat the whole game except one enemy. I didn't get their health bar down to zero, and you
You
guys.
didn't beat the whole game.
now
I'm not. I'm
I was
not
just
claiming.
surprised you
I'm
watched the
just saying.
cutscene.
Yeah,
But it
I
makes
was like,
sense.
well, I was like, I want to know what happens. I'm not spoiling anything for myself because I am not ashamed. If you want to shame me, that's your prerogative. I'm not ashamed. I want you guys to finish talking about your victories. I'm going to be proud for you, and then we can talk about
It's okay,
the
Crypt. You did a
ending
great job.
narrative. Thank you. I
If you
tried my
weren't
best.
on a time crunch, I'm sure you'll still go back and beat it later tonight. So that's fine.
You played a lot of this game for something that you didn't particularly care for, as
Yeah,
far as I can tell.
I
you
would not
So
have
did.
gotten past like level 4 if I just was playing this for my own pleasure. But I've really enjoyed like getting to talk about it with you guys. So I mean, it's not
Absolutely.
like a loss, but
Hey,
I don't feel
you made it
guilty.
farther than Joe because he's never gonna watch this. So you made it farther than Joe.
That's true. That's true.
I didn't finish Pokemon, so like I'm
Yeah,
giving
you
you
didn't
Yeah,
grief,
finish
but
yeah,
Pokemon.
get it.
John didn't finish
but
Wait,
Pokemon.
what? I
So
finished Pokemon,
no, we talked about this on the episode. Your thing messed up and you never got to the. You did everything but the final boss,
but I couldn't possibly do it.
boss.
and I couldn't either because I'm bad at the game.
Well,
talk about it, guys. Talk
my
about the end of
Nintendo
the game.
64 was broken. Okay. All right.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
definitely
Hmm.
Nintendo 64. Anyway, okay, where were we? Saving Princess
End of the
Fiona
game.
from the ogre. Oh wait, I mean, we're the ogre. Okay.
The
Ogre.
auger.
All right. So we've finally taken down Lord Farquaad, and we take his keystone. I think. You know what? No. We're to this cutscene, and Lord Farquaad, aka Lucius, is actually now being possessed by not us, but Mendicos. And Mendicos decides, well done, Underlord. Now, Lucius, kill him. This world is mine.
I called it. I called it.
And then, yeah, turns out he's not a nice guy. Huh, we're in the land of make believe here. Anyway, so he informs Lucius to strike us down. He attempts to do so, but he can't. And then he's so confused, and then out of nowhere, Kira says, "Not today." And she says, "Good job, Underlord. You did exactly as I needed you to do." And then she takes down Mendicos and brings us to a very wonderful world where we can open our eyes and we can see the beautiful sun. Well, I don't know if we've seen the sun. We've seen the sky for sure and clouds. And then we have now successfully helped cleanse this realm of the Empire of Mendicos and the Underlords.
Is that what we did?
Yes. And
She calls us. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm stepping on your toes here.
how dare you? I will tell on you.
I'm so sorry.
You're fine. What's up?
Well, I think I might be spoiling what you're about to say. Let me
Probably.
just.
That's okay.
Okay.
All right.
Go ahead.
So, she tells us we have successfully cleansed this world and she's going to be rebuilding it into a more betterer place. Yes, that's the correct way to say that. And she tells us that there are other realms that could possibly be that we could go to as well. So that leads us to, the end of our campaign for this world of Kairos, and we've successfully cleansed it. So go ahead.
So maybe I didn't see the entire cutscene because mine ends. The one I watched ended with like staring at the sky, and then it was like, "Well done, overseer." And it's like, okay, that's like
I just didn't
heaven
say the word.
underlord. Oh no, you're fine. But then, as far as I recall, I probably just totally like the plot just went right over. But I didn't understand that like, oh, she had put us in this position to destroy the empire so that she could like rebuild a holier empire, and that we were actually like going to continue helping. I didn't get that because I guess I wasn't paying attention well enough.
So we were her pawn the whole time. We actually weren't Mendicos's pawn. So we were
Which
we, we were Mira's pawn to be Mendicos's
Kira.
pawn. What?
Kira, you said Mira.
Yes, yes, that's it. So
See,
yeah,
too
Which
close.
it's
exactly.
I
So
don't mind a twist ending, but this is
mhm.
it feels strange because the beginning cutscene sets up Kira as being this like indomitable force, but then we don't really interact with her except for in one level in like the first half of the game, and then at the very end. And so
That's just like a
it
god
was,
would only show up at the end, or a god.
and we need to play Kid Icarus Uprising because there's goddesses throughout that whole game, and that game is amazing. Anyway, I'm done like digressing, but I didn't understand the game and I didn't understand the story, but it was a cool cutscene, and I promise I'm not dumb.
All right,
So
so go
I
ahead.
I was to say this is like one of my favorite video game endings like ever. Like I thoroughly enjoyed this. I This isn't like to speak on the rest of the game yet, but the cutscene, like I knew that Mendicals is going to betray us. Well, I really was thinking, yeah, it's going to happen. But we got to the end of the game, and I was like, all right, now how is this realistically going to happen? Because we have the real control here. The all the minions are really our minions. I guess we all technically follow Mendicals, but like it's going to be kind of cheap if they just like, all right, we're going to turn against you now. So I like the
Order
idea that like
66, yeah.
we took control of Emperor Lucius, who's using Kira's like holy object that's like the opposite of ours. Um, and then through him, he attempts to like take us over. And like, as far as like the plot, it's not a very deep plot, it doesn't go too far, but it sets it up in that the one level that you really interact with Kira, she's pointed out to be a trickster. Um, where she's like pulled a switcheroo at the last second. And she surprises Mendicals, and he's like, "Oh, what? I wasn't expecting that." And so I don't know if it goes as far as saying like that's foreshadowing, but I mean they have kind of set that up in the limited plot they do have. The actual like cinematic was really cool. I love the art style. It was gruesome and awesome and violent without just being like over the top. Um, and the idea that she set this up to like intentionally fail was really cool. And the way it ends, I took it to mean that again, she intentionally let the empire collapse because they'd fall into like disarray, or just weren't doing what was best for the people. Because I don't take it as like, oh, all the people are dead. It's just that like the crappy establishment is gone
Well,
now.
you heard what she said
And
about the Emperor. She said that his line is now gone as
yeah.
well. So
Hmm. And that was all intentional because now you're the overseer, and I really like that for a couple of reasons. One, it's a happier, lighter ending. I guess you were kind of the good guy in a greater good way the whole time. Also, it sets it up for a sequel,
hmm
um, where they can create a you know overworld version of it. Uh, I don't know if they will do that, but I like the fact that they have sequel potential in that way.
hmm and then one thing I wanted to point out is whenever the other underlords were dying or fighting us, they did give some explanations. So, for example, the first two underlords that we're partnering with, um, well, no, just the one guy that was dying, and then the guy that
Mhm.
did turncoat. They gave us some bits of advice, and they told us to really watch out for Mendicos, and they really did try to warn us. And then every time Mendicos is like, "Don't listen to this traitor, don't listen to the
Yeah.
babblings of a dead underlord," and so the the foreshadowing was there for what was going to happen, but I guess our character just kind of ignored that because we were there for the glory. We're just following orders. So,
Good soldier follows orders, John.
all right,
The Star Wars no, hold on. That was a Star Wars reference. I'm not trying to like
you
make
made Ryder
something.
cry.
I'm sorry, writer.
It's okay.
Okay, so that that concludes War for the Overworld. So now let's get into just any general discussions y'all wanted to bring up about the game. So whoever wants to take hold of that one. So we talked about story already.
I just thought overall it was really charming. Like the writer mentioned, like the aesthetic is like gruesome, but it's like it's cartoon. Like if this was a game that was sold in a box, it would be rated, T or whatever for cartoon violence, not for gore or anything like that. Um, all the characters are like really cute in like gross ways, and all the writing is really clever. And you're doing terrible things, but it never like takes itself seriously. You never actually feel like you're perpetuating this demonic force that you, I suppose, technically are.
Right.
And then yeah, and then all the comments by
Mendicants.
Mindakos
Yeah, that's it.
and
Mickey Mouse.
Mickey Mouse. All the comments by him, like when everything's going okay, are hilarious. The banter between all the various other NPCs, it's a really good time. And I think that you know, I don't know if we're ready to get into like final impressions, but
Go for it.
I think for someone who like is a fan of this type of game, or at the very least like has some experience and understands this type of game, this is like a really interesting project. You can tell like a lot of heart was put into it. And there's a lot of really clever ideas, and there's a ton of depth, and I think that's really really cool. I just felt a little bit out of my depth the whole time, but overall, like I would if I knew someone like me, I wouldn't recommend this game to someone. But if I knew someone like Ryder, I would probably like tell them to go for it.
Hopefully, you'll meet someone like Ryder one day.
I, man, I hope so.
Um, I guess I'll go next.
Go for it.
So Kurt touched on a lot of things here. I have talked kind of ad nauseum about what I did and didn't like. Um, there's a lot of depth here, and that's not necessarily a good thing. There's areas where it's really complex, like the sins, like the skill tree. There's a lot there. There's a lot to unpack, and I'm sure that if you are into RTSs or looking for something a bit more complex, it's good. Uh, the problem is playing through what is essentially the 15-hour tutorial that we did play. I still didn't really get a good grasp on a lot of it. And the finer details of an RTS, a lot of times you have to pump hours in to learn it, to really get a good grasp on the game and what works, what doesn't. Um, but in the tutorial, there's a lot of moments where I was keeping up pretty well, but they're throwing so much at you that it just doesn't stick. A lot of times I find myself, not a lot of times, I'd say probably like 80% of the time, I've said it over and over. I was just building a massive army, conglomerate group of misfit monsters and minions and beasts and whatever, and just kind of throwing them at the enemy until they're eventually overwhelmed. I wasn't focusing on anything more complex than that. So again, for maybe online play or even the sandbox mode, I don't think I really got a good enough grasp on what was there. There are things that were kind of introduced and then just dropped. I, it really hurts because, like Kurt said, this is a very charming game. The dialogue at times is outright made me like laugh. Um, the characters are goofy, over the top. They take themselves very seriously sometimes, but there's a lot of tongue in cheek humor. It's something that I think anyone could enjoy, but there's just so much that even me as a fan of like an RTS game, there are times where I was like, no, what am I doing? What is this? Um, so I can't give it a full recommendation for anyone. So I would
Mm-hmm.
have to say, if you're into RTS games looking for something a little different, give this a shot. It's something that's very unique. There's a lot of things here that I've never seen in another RTS. Things like possession, where you get to take control, first person view of your minions. It's really cool. Um, there's cool spells and abilities and ways to build up your bases here. But basing purely on what we've played in the campaign, I'd say that this is only really a game for RTS fans. Um, if I had to give it like a numeric rating, it'd be like a 7 out of 10 because ultimately I thoroughly enjoyed this, better than a lot of games. But again, there's just some points where the cracks kind of show. I'm sure that if I played more in sandbox mode, I'd probably grow to like this a lot more. but purely on the campaign, which is kind of the front face of it. It's what advertised, big, bold, huge icon. Um, your real selling point of getting into the game. I can't give it a full recommendation or a higher score than that.
Right. Okay. Perfect. And my turn. So I can and will give this a recommendation because I recommended this to three of my friends and two of them played it.
And two of them
It's
are us.
us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're the
Wait,
two
what?
friends.
Oh. Oh, hi guys. Hey. Okay.
John, you have to pretend like we're friends. That's what the show is.
Am I your friend, John? Please tell me I'm your friend.
Oh, wait. I'm sorry. I did not realize
Right.
that y'all sent my payment over. Yes, my friends. Yes. My
Ryder,
bad.
can you just John, we'll let you finish, but Ryder, can you just talk into the microphone for a few more hours before we wrap up?
I'll do this for the rest of the time if you guys want to. I can hear it in my headphones. Is it nice?
Yeah,
It's
that's perfect.
it's
You do that.
simultaneously like way too soft and way too loud.
Hey
All right,
guys.
we're done. We're done. John,
All right,
please,
all right.
please stop.
I'm not editing this out. This is in here. Okay. So, I
This is the
would
show.
recommend this game. One of the key points I would like to bring up is for an RTS, the campaign is going to be um, very different than if you were to do online play. So, the campaign, most of the time, the enemies are already set up, already ready. You have to go attack them, and then they have specific strategies that they have to employ. So, I would agree with the fact that this is a giant tutorial for the game, but I wouldn't liken it to multiplayer in the same regard. So if we were to compare the two, it would be a lot different, and there would be a lot more practice that went into multiplayer. Say, for example, I would never play the StarCraft campaign in order to get ready for the StarCraft multiplayer because those are those are too far apart, even though they are the same game. However, um, if we just talk about this campaign wise, not comparing it to any preparedness for multiplayer or anything like that, I would say I thoroughly enjoyed this game, but as a fan of RTS games, that's kind of where my me leaning toward liking most of those games would come into play. But this is just my style of game. I'm not gonna say I'm good at them, but I do enjoy them. So overall, I would say the story was amazing, especially for how little story we get, but just how much it dives into just the little uh, the little comments and snarky banter between the different characters as we encounter them is great. Even though our character never says a word, it's still nice to see all these different personalities coming out. Even though you know we're trying to have a war and take down this whole entire realm, it's nice to get that little banter back and forth, between the two sides when it would come about. And then gameplay wise, I would say there are a few things that annoyed me. Um, for one being just how constantly I'm reminded that my minions want to be paid, which, you
How
know,
dare they?
You understand capitalism so well now.
well, the problem being I have the money, but they literally have to be able to go back to the base and get it. But sometimes they would have, 10, 15 minutes at my base where they don't do that. But the minute they leave out,
No.
they're like, oh, I would like to be paid now. I'm just thinking,
Yeah.
you've had 15 minutes to go get paid and you haven't done it. I can't help that you're wanting to do that right now when we're doing a push, or my dungeon core is being attacked. I have a priority list here, and you getting paid while our whole dungeon's being destroyed. That could wait a little bit longer. Like 2 minutes is all you would have to wait. I think you would be fine. So those are just some of my complaints. That's not that big of a list, but I'm sure if I learned some more of the hotkeys for this game, then it would have went a lot smoother. However, with the
Hmm.
campaign scenario, you don't really have to do that because that's more of an intermediate play style, I would say. And this being in the introduction for us, this is more of a beginner gameplay that we would have been bringing forward for this. But with that beginner mentality in mind, I would say that just using the standard mouse and the few keys on the keyboard, it got me through the game, and I did get the chance to enjoy it all, and I could successfully get through it without having to have all those extended experiences with RTSs. So I would say it's a lot to take in if it's your first RTS, but um, how slowly it throws it at you, it did help with the learning curve. So making sure that the whole campaign was a part of the tutorial. So for example, there was a unit that I never actually used because it was introduced in the last chapter. I didn't even mention it, but there was a vampire unit that you could use,
Oh,
and
I
you
thought you
can
were talking about the
unlock.
witch doctor.
I meant to bring him up too earlier, but I forgot because I only used him like
It's
once.
fine.
But there's just so many different options available to you where you don't even have to figure out the right combination to win. You just come up with your own that suits you and you can do it. And so that's what I really enjoyed about this game. So just hearing about the different ways that we do any of those missions was just one of the cool facts that you get to learn along the way. So yeah, overall I would give this a my recommendation. So anybody else got anything to throw onto that?
I
Any other?
enjoyed it.
Think
Mhm.
It was let's say I think I put 14 hours into it. I think I paid like $4 for it. So I mean that's a pretty good, dollar to hour
I'd
ratio
honestly
there.
have to check. I
Um,
don't know how many hours I put into this game. Oh, it
I
doesn't keep
probably
track
put it.
when I'm offline. That's sad.
I probably put in about the same amount of time as Ryder, but I only paid $2 for this, so I guess I would say that I got my money's worth. But yeah, I suppose if we're considering our collective rating system like we've done in the past, that this will be the very first Press A to Talk Backlog Crew game that we don't recommend to you guys. But I'm going to put a little asterisk there personally. Sorry, John, if I'm stepping on your
Oh, go
hosting
for it.
toes.
No,
But
feel free.
I'm going to say not recommended. But if you're a huge fan of RTSs, you're looking for something like a little different, a little more interesting, then give it a shot. Who knows? Maybe you like it. It's an older game. It goes on sale. You might like it.
recommend to fans of the genre.
Yeah, and I don't care what anyone says. That's not a pretentious thing to say, and it makes sense, especially in this scenario.
Absolutely. Okay. So, any final comments on War for the Overworld? Three,
I
two,
think we're
one.
good.
All
That's
right.
it.
Well, I will let one of these two gentlemen here introduce you to the next game we have on our agenda.
That will be I. Uh, the next game that we will be playing as Backlog Crew is going to be one of my favorite games of all time from my favorite trilogy of all time. Games, maybe movies too. I mean, it might be up there. I don't know, but let's just stay with games. My favorite trilogy. We're going to be playing the first Mass Effect game. Uh, because this is a longer game with so much side content, we're actually going to be splitting it into two huge chunks. I'm kind of scared how long the recording is going to be. I'm going to try to keep it down, but we're going to be playing from the beginning of the game, maybe from the beginning of the game until the end of Vermeer. Um, there's going to be a lot of content here. I'm extremely excited to talk about it. Like I said, it's one of my favorites. It's been around for a while, and we're actually doing this uh, to kind of commemorate the release of Mass Effect Legendary Edition. Um, 30 hours, yeah, at least 30 hours. I'm really excited. Like I said, just a few details. I'm not trying to overdo it here, but if anyone wants to play along with us or cares about spoilers, um, pretty much every side mission needs to be completed before Vermeer. There's not really any type of expiring quests in this game from like, oh, you waited two side quests and now it's going to disappear. But there is a point of no return in this game, like a lot of other RPGs. So if you're planning on hitting everything as much as you can in the first playthrough, make sure you hit all those side quests before Vermeer. Um, I
And your
think that's
cat is
it
very
for
excited about it too.
Yes, I know. What's crazy is she's been quiet the entire time, and like as soon as I started talking in an extended period about my favorite game ever, she's like, "Arr."
It's her favorite game
But
too. She's like, yes,
she's like,
yes.
yes, Mass Effect.
Talk about it for 30 hours, please. I want to listen to that.
But I think that's it. I'm excited, and we are ready to talk. Bye,
I
guys.
guess that was the outro. Bye, guys. Thanks.
Sounds good.